Okay, the new Magikarp illustration rare from Paldea Evolved. I mean, well, if we can even call it new anymore because it's nearly been a year. What is happening with this card? This card is seriously breaking new levels, and for a card that's technically not even that crazy rare to pull in comparison to older cards from the Sword and Shield set. And this is actually a really interesting time because this is the first card that I genuinely think from the Scarlet and Violet era that's boomed, besides, your Master Ball reverse holos and things like that. For the English set, we haven't had a real standout. I mean, Charizard's done pretty well, but that's always Charizard. So this card, seemingly out of nowhere has decided to take a huge leap and bound. And this is in one aspect really cool to see that there's some demand for a card in the Scarlet and Violet era, but also it's a little bit problematic because it kind of, brings up questions. Is it a safe card to go into? Should you be buying this card? Is it something to add to your collection? I will be answering that in this video, and I'll even give my thoughts on it in a later stage in this video. But what's really interesting, I'm gonna go into the price data, but this is really bizarre, guys, because illustration rares have been a fantastic input. And I do have a video that I've just edited, which is going to be coming about some issues within the Scarlet and Violet era, right? And it's a video that's coming out soon. But, and one thing that I find really strange about this is Scarlet and Violet has introduced illustration rares and special illustration rares. Now, your illustration rares, which this Magikarp is actually a lower rarity to the special illustration rare. So the fact that an illustration rare has taken the world by storm is really interesting because it's not a special illustration rare, it's actually the lower version. This has kind of made me think, is this the card of Scarlet and Violet? Like, are we already having the Moonbryon with only the second set in? Like, it's really interesting. And I wonder what's going to happen with Paldea Evolved if this keeps climbing, because, it kind of makes you really wonder, is Paldea Evolved going to also boom because it's going to follow the kind of Magikarp's price? Look, Lost Origin didn't really boom with Giratina going outside the floodgates. So, it doesn't mean, it just because one card in a set becomes super valuable doesn't mean the set's going to become valuable. Lost Origin now is climbing, but it did take a while. So it doesn't just necessarily mean because this Magikarp is now booming that Paldea Evolved is going to also boom out of the floodgates. So just we're going to have to see how things pan out. But firstly, I want to talk about the card itself. Now, this Magikarp card is phenomenal. This is one of the highlights of Scarlet and Violet, and of course, it is a sensational artwork. There's nothing that you can really fault. It's got some real cool Chinese inspiration of the artwork. It feels like a koi fish painting. I really love it. I love the Gyarados in the top right corner, the colors, the waterfall in the background. It feels like it kind of positions Magikarp as a lucky Pokemon. It feels like a lucky charm, this card. I actually really like it, and I think it's got they really took the art direction of this card in a phenomenal way. And I think, when we think of Magikarp, especially if you play Magikarp as the game, it's always been that kind of, it's the most common Pokemon pretty much in all of Pokemon. You can catch it in anywhere. You can use an old rod. It is the most accessible Pokemon pretty much in the whole game. The fact that we have this real standout artwork is a little bit of a meme, but it's also incredible how they showed it as it's really made Magikarp be a standout in the set, which is interesting because, it's not Gyarados, it's not a fully evolved form, it's just a Magikarp. But I think a lot of people have connections with Magikarp, and it is a fantastic, they really did a good job with the art direction. So I'm not too surprised that there's a lot of love for the card. I am very surprised with the price that's happened. The reason why this video has even come about is because I want to go into the price data, guys. Check out, I'm on the year graph of TCG Playable, guys, but I'm going to actually just pull this in to the last 3 months. So what's really interesting, this card was sitting at $64, okay, which is 64 US, and it was pretty stable, guys. It hadn't had much movement. You're always going to be paying within, $60 to $70 if you were buying it off TCG Play. Everything seemed pretty normal. And then as you go on, what's happened here, as you can just see, it literally just boomed, and it's now going at $108. It is approaching doubling in value without a nowhere. Like look at that month graph. This thing has literally just gone from, as you can see, sitting here in March, $67. We're only on the April right now. We go here, now it's at 107. That's an enormous amount of growth. I mean, if you had a few of these, in your collection and you were just holding on to them, You know, you've pretty much doubled your money, which seemingly overnight. And what's really interesting is it's had some tiny stabilization right now. Is that going to last, or is it going to keep going? I want to put my own thoughts in that, guys. And I even looked at eBay, and I'm on eBay now, and I can see the PSA 10 copies of the card, which I'm on right now. You can see that they're selling 550 US for the PSA 10. This one here just got 25 bids for 615 US. I mean, that's a lot, man. These cards are selling for quite an enormous amount of money. And it's getting really interesting. Like you can see, just only a few days before, it sold for, you know, 480, and then it sold for 615. They're really breaking a kind of new level of price. But there is a few areas where you need to be cautious when you go too bullish. And I want to go into the pull rate data for the Magikarp. So Magikarp is an illustration rare, and the pull rates for those in Paldea Evolved, according to TCG Player, are 1 in 13 for an illustration rare. To get a specific card, so this Magikarp specifically is around 1 in 480 packs is your chance to pull. That seems like a lot, but really it's not that crazy rare when you compare it to something like, let's say, the VMAX Alt Umbreon from Evolving Skies. To pull any Alt Art VMAX was 1 in 283, but to pull a specific Alt Art VMAX was around 1 in 1,700 packs. So you can see that, you know, like an Umbreon Alt Art was enormously more difficult to pull. So the fact that this Magikarp is hitting these price points is really interesting, man. Like it's really taken a new level, and I don't know why the sentiments happened. If anyone knows why this card is blown up, it'd be really interesting to let me know, because, you know, it's kind of confusing for the market. Whether it's a buyout, is there something else going on? I don't know, but it's very interesting to see how high this card is going in value and seemingly out of nowhere. My personal thoughts on this card was, if you want to add it to your collection, right? I think usually when people if you want to add cards to your collection, I'm not too picky when to buy, because if you love the card and you want it in your collection, whether it goes down, whether it goes up, that doesn't really matter. So, you know, I like this card. I really want it in my collection. I'm kind of thinking I will have to add it. I'm probably going to have to go buy it sometime soon. But if you want to add it to your collection, go for it whenever you want. Really, if it's gonna drop in value, if it goes up in value, big deal. It's in your personal collection. It doesn't matter. If you want to buy these and buy a few of these in raw copies, and you think that there's going to be some growth, I'd be careful about being bullish with this, man, because Paldea Evolved, you know, okay, sure, it got sold out in the Pokemon Center. It's very likely it's going to get a reprint. It's not even a year old. It released in June last year. It's very high chance that there's going to be a few more waves of reprints for Paldea Evolved. So you've already got that in the mix. And not only that, it's anything that rises this quickly and has such a huge growth isn't too confident. It's much more safe, guys. You know, being in the hobby for such a long time, it's much more safe when cards have nice, steady, gradual growth, okay? When they have these huge spikes, it is warning bells galore, because just as quick as it can grow, it can just dip the same way. So if you want to invest in this, be careful, man, because, you know, good things usually take time. I, you know, focus a lot on personal development, right? That's a big topic of mine. And one of the biggest things that a lot of personal development coaches and people in this field talk about is that if you want good things, anything that comes too quickly, usually, not always, but usually cannot be trusted, because if it comes too quick, it usually drops down. Even with YouTube channels, man, like you'll see, you don't want to, it's actually common if you want to grow a YouTube, one of the worst things can be getting a viral video too quickly, because what happens is it sets a huge standard. You go way too high. If that viral video only hit one specific topic, your other videos later, maybe those people that just subscribe for that massive video might not be interested in your future videos, because it was just one, you know, anomaly. It was like one blip in the system. You would much rather have consistent, strong growth in all, like that's how a YouTube channel works, right? You know, I've been in marketing for a long time. I know the best is just slow, steady, consistent growth. Same thing with trading cards, guys. When you have these massive spikes, you know, a lot of people have the same idea. They want to jump in. They all have the same idea. Everyone's got the same kind of mindset, the same rationale. Hey, let's go in. Just let the dust settle. You know, if you miss out, you miss out. And I think that's something that's really important, especially for collectors to know. Everyone's got this fear of missing out. And I talk about it in previous videos. FOMO, man. There's going to be another cards. You know, if you miss out on some, you'll get another. You know, there was a better time to buy this Magikarp. You know, you had a whole year to buy it. If you love the card, you could have bought it when you loved it. So don't be too bullish and being like, oh, I have to get in, it's going to explode. It could, for sure. Hey, world of possibilities, but also, you know, the fact that it's only a year old, more reprints could come, it could also stabilize. And it's nothing as rare as a Giratina V or nowhere near like an Alt Art VMAX Umbreon. So, you know, it's not exactly the rarest of the rarest of cards. But definitely if you want to add in your collection, no stopping you there. But, you know, I think this Magikarp is a perfect example of an overvalued card at the moment, right? And overvalued cards happen a lot within this hobby, and sometimes, you know, we did have a little bit of a phase of overvalued cards, and then the market corrected itself last year, and it seems like now it's going back up, right? But sometimes in Pokemon, overvalued cards can take a form of their own. And, you know, I've spoken a lot about overvalued cards. In fact, I did make a video right here deep diving into the topic of overvalued cards. I cover the 9 most overvalued Pokemon cards, and I go into detail about how they actually become overvalued and how hype trains begin. Click that video if that interests you, and I'll see you there, guys.